let's talk about how to heal. And what I mean specifically is how to heal from emotional pain, hurt, even trauma. Now, the first thing is absolutely seek professional help if you're really struggling with something inside of yourself, emotionally speaking, or something traumatic has happened to you. We can't underscore the importance of therapeutic support when we're really, really struggling. So that's number one. Number two, this is a huge, deep topic. So while I think some of the concepts on how to heal are simple, it is not always easy, and it can be very, very uncomfortable and unnerving. So stick with me here. I'm going to condense 20 years of therapeutic training and experience with myself and others into this however many minute video, okay? So let's start. Firstly, the first thing that's important for me when you're healing, and this has been, I've experienced or been proven, you could say, in my work with thousands of people over tens of thousands of hours of doing therapy and supporting people through deep emotional pain and healing from trauma. Number one thing is allow. Meaning, allow yourself to feel how you're feeling and allow the elements, the emotional commodities that are wishing to be felt and expressed inside of you to come to surface. One of the things that I have seen people stop or inhibit their healing journey is by resisting feeling what they don't want to feel. Because it's too painful, because it's too uncomfortable, because an idea about what they have about that feeling has them not want to feel it. Maybe in their belief system or in their cultural structure, anger is not okay. So they don't let themselves feel or be angry because it's disrespectful or it's frowned upon. There's a lot of different reasons why people don't want to feel things. And we need to allow the feelings to come to surface. Now, of course, there's an appropriate way to express those and an appropriate way to feel them, even we could say. But the first step is really allowing ourselves to open to the tenderness of the pain that's inside of us and letting ourselves feel how we need to feel. I'll take a little tangent here and tell you a story. When I was young, I would say now that I suffered from anxiety and depression. I was molested as a young boy by an older boy, and that stuck with me and created a lot of subconscious anger that I had towards the world. I smoked tons of weed from the ages of like 14 to 22, probably almost daily. And I would not say that it was like I was abusing it, right? It was not for coping like I think a lot of people, which I support actually, people use now. This is a different era. And I was wanting to escape my experience, right? So a very important distinction. I was also drinking to get drunk every weekend in high school. And then in college, I was getting drunk probably 6 nights a week. I mean, I was an alcoholic, right? And I was drinking to fit in, to escape my own experience, some of my own trauma, and a lot of other reasons, right? So what I'm sharing with you is also steps that I've practiced for myself. And now I'm a celibate monk who's very happy and fulfilled every day of my life in the world, right? So it's been quite a journey, as you can imagine. So the first thing to do is to allow ourselves to feel how we feel. Allow, right? Number one. Number two, accept. Here's the distinction. Yes, we can allow feelings to have, but there's another step forward that we can take around accepting the feelings that we're having. Meaning we really welcome and accept the feelings that we have rather than just expressing them and kind of like spewing them all over the place and yelling at somebody else or yelling at ourselves and beating ourselves up for how we feel or becoming dramatic about it or just like indulging in it. That it can spin a lot of different ways. There is an element around how when we can accept the feelings that we're having, and specifically in our hearts, that there's a power that gets unlocked through accepting the low vibration, the negative feelings that we're having, the feelings that are uncomfortable, that create pain in our lives, that stop us from having the relationships that we want to have with others, with ourselves, that stop us from getting certain results that we want, like abundance in the world. Our pain stops us from experiencing abundance in all forms, financial, in terms of love and care and support, in terms of depth of relationship. So our ability to accept feelings as they arise, not only allow them, but really welcome them And it sounds paradoxical, right? Because if I'm feeling angry or depressed, and I'll think of when I felt these ways, the latest time it was really intense was probably about 15 years ago when I was really angry. Not just like a spike of anger, like angry all the time. And I didn't understand why. When I learned this technique or this paradigm of allowing and accepting, I was like, why would I accept the anger in my heart? Why would I accept feeling angry? I don't want to feel angry. So why are you telling me to accept it? And here's the linchpin of this teaching. When we accept anger or accept any, again, uncomfortable feeling in our hearts fully, it will dissolve. Now, here's the nuance of this. Accepting it doesn't mean indulging in expressing it. It means allowing ourselves to feel it in our bodies, in our hearts 100%, and to soften around the feeling. It often, when I was practicing this regularly, especially with anger, I realized I didn't want to soften. I didn't want to allow myself to kind of surrender, to open, because I was so attached to how anger created a protection for me from the outside world. And I didn't like being tender, you could say, or soft with myself or really with other people. Sure, in like romantic relationships here and there, and I could be kind and loving in certain ways, but I really had a hard time opening myself, opening my heart, and really being vulnerable because I was so attached to how anger kept everyone away a safe distance, right? For the molestation that I talked about and a myriad other reasons that have kind of happened in my life and how I created this structure around myself in terms of beliefs and how I see the world and all of these things. So all this to say, when I accepted that anger into my heart fully, and with the breath, and maybe you could even just see me soften in that moment as I put my hands on my heart, or you could feel it, that the anger has an opportunity to dissolve, right? Now, anger serves a purpose, so I'm not saying anger's bad or depression's bad. It just has us feel pretty uncomfortable, and it limits our ability to really be who we want to be, feel how we want to feel, and get what we really want in our lives, right? So the first step is allow the feelings to come to surface, to be present, to be expressed in the ways that are appropriate for us in our lives. The second step is to accept it into the heart. And take a breath and allow those feelings, because when we resist the feelings that we don't want to feel, we keep them alive, we could say. You've heard this, what we resist persists. And it's true. Try keeping a beach ball underwater. It keeps wanting to buoy up. It's the same things with uncomfortable emotions that we don't want to feel. They grow in power the more that we push on them. Why? Because we're paying attention to them. We're like, I don't want to feel anger. And all the subconscious hears is anger, anger, anger. I don't want to feel anger. I don't want to feel anger. I don't want to feel anger. Right? So that's where our attention goes. And it can be actually a subconscious attention, we could say. So first is allow. Second, accept, right? And then the third point is equally as important as all of these, is take action. Take action with the intent of healing. I'll give you some examples. Maybe, people I work with pretty often are very anxious about the world, and they have a lot of fears about what might happen in the world if they go out into the world. They might get judged, they might get rejected, they might get really scared and freaked out and have a panic attack. I mean, all these are very real concerns that they have. Nonetheless, if we want to heal, we need to take action just out of our comfort zone, right? And not into the overwhelm, freak out, re-traumatized panic attack zone, but regular, consistent action that has us leave the comfort zone. If you're freaked out about, like I have a young man who's really freaked out about going and ordering food at a restaurant, right? Now, here's the thing. He doesn't really look at why he's freaked out. He just doesn't want to do it. So that anxiety stays alive inside of him. And I'm working with him on how to actually do that and to look at like what's behind it and how that stops him from actually getting the kind of relationships that he wants and stops him from being as independent as he wants from his parents, right? So I create a compelling reason for him to do some of this uncomfortable work so that he can heal. So all this to say, take action that has the intent to heal behind it. Put yourself out there in the world, or put yourself in here with yourself if that's what you're avoiding, right? So take little steps that are just outside the comfort zone, that are going to have you grow, and steps that don't get you too overwhelmed. Now, I'm a person who bites off more than I can chew sometimes, so that's kind of my style of doing it. And so things tend to happen pretty rapidly in an accelerated way for me. If you want to take that on for yourself, it's possible, but don't use that as a reason to be aggressive towards yourself, right? Which is kind of one of my things, is that I'm too intense and I can be too aggressive towards myself. Unfortunately, sometimes towards other people, but praise be, I am practicing being better at that and limiting the impact that I have on other people when I'm like that. All this to say, be in action. Be in action out there in your life with an open heart, with a tender heart, with a vulnerability. I can tell you that emotional resilience, which is another way to describe, I think, healing, is born out of courage, right? Emotional resilience comes from leaving our comfort zone and going through a difficult time and sometimes failing and sometimes being successful, and however that feels and registers in your feelings world, right? So be in action. Go for it. You've got this. Allow the feelings to be there. Accept them into your heart. It's okay. There's no feeling that is going to crush you, right? And thirdly, be in action as much as you can. And just little by little, you can do this. You can heal anything. And I say this not only from my own experience, but having worked with tens of thousands of people, the majority of them having gone through trauma, and the majority of them having healed through their own work, through getting professional help, and most importantly, through practicing these 3 principles. All my best to you. You've got this.